Welcome to Connecting the Community podcast. I am your host, Marge Andre. I will be connecting you to people, organizations, and events that create community. I am creating this podcast in Richmond Hill, an eclectic and very culturally diverse community with lots of trees and streams and interesting people, just up the hill from Toronto. On this podcast, I will be talking with Scott Thompson. He's the councillor for Ward 2 in Richmond Hill. I have known Scott well before he was elected. We often discussed municipal politics. So welcome, Scott.
Hello there, Marge.
Yeah. I am very glad that you could join me. I'm looking forward to this conversation. But let's start, Scott. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, what were you doing before you became a councillor?
Well, I think I'd like to just quickly expand on why you and I know each other and why we often discuss, municipal politics. And of course, I first met you when I was campaigning in 2018. And then in December 2019, you had actually asked me if I would join the executive team for the Council Accountability Group, which you were a co-founder of. And so that's how, obviously you and I got talking politics quite a bit. So before my term with you on the Council Accountability Group, I served on Richmond Hill's Committee of Adjustment from 2014 to 2018. And before that, I had retired from a 37-year career in first municipal government for 15 years and then provincial government for another 22 years, where I ended my career in financial risk management and control. And at the time of my retirement, I was managing the credit card programs for all the provincial ministries, agencies, boards, and commissions.
Okay, that sounds pretty tough stuff. Okay, so now you are a councillor. It's been about 6 months since you've been sworn in. Have there been any big surprises?
Surprises? No, I wouldn't say surprises. Disappointments, yes. Without going into too much detail, let's just say that I'm disappointed with how certain provincial bills are being passed without a lot of thought going into the impacts that they present. I would say, Bill 23 is a classic example where there are still way more questions than answers needed that would provide us as a municipality with the necessary means to support or even meet the targets of the bill in its current form. And it just, we're at a point here into this new term where we already have to start thinking about next year's budgets and so forth. And there are just too many unknowns with these bills that are being passed. So surprised, no. Disappointed, yes.
Okay. You were one of 6 ward councillors, and then we had the regional local councillors. Did you know all of the people that were elected before you started your term?
Well, obviously, because of my time with the Council Accountability Group, I knew Carol Davidson. And I already had a pretty good relationship with David West. And part of that is because of my time on the Committee of Adjustment. He was also a former Committee of Adjustment member. So when I was first getting started, I had reached out to him just to, help get a better understanding. And he's just been really receptive to helping people. I really appreciate David in that regard. And it turned out that his brother, Sean, was my daughter's coach in ringette. So it was just, you get that little 6 degree of separation happening all the time.
Very good. And how about the staff? Like, you would have known some of the staff from sitting on the Committee of Adjustment, but there are a lot of City of Richmond Hill staff.
There are. I have to admit, I I'm not even sure what our complement is in terms of staff. And yeah, so I've certainly met some staff at that time. Obviously, the commissioner Kelvin Kwan and others. But since coming in as a councillor, little by little, yes, I'm getting to know more and more of our management staff, but I don't get a lot of opportunity to have contact with our frontline staff. One of the things is that our building passes, it only provides us with access to our floor only. And there are no other departments on our floor. It's just us. So, and obviously there's probably some history involved on why councillors don't have access to the other floors. And I got to tell you a little story here, because it seems that our staff, or at least our frontline staff, are perhaps suffering some PTSD, because I went and called one of our departments. I won't say which department it was, but I called with what I was just going to ask as a very general question, a question that a resident would call and expect to be able to get a quick answer on. And as soon as they recognized that it was a councillor calling, it's like, what do I do? What do I do? Oh my goodness, it's a councillor calling. And they're going, hold on. And I can hear them talking to somebody else saying, it's a councillor, we're not allowed to talk to councillors. And I'm thinking to myself, seriously, really? So it seems that's why perhaps I'm only getting to know management more and more, and not our frontline workers, because like I say, I think there's probably some PTSD there for maybe some bad experiences in the past. And it just seems that, and I can't confirm this, but that's what it feels like. It just feels that, there's some sort of rule of engagement, and, so that's where it is in terms of.
Okay. I think you guys need a big picnic or something to get outside and know each other. So
exactly.
But I'm also curious about where your office is. It's on the second floor, I believe. And you've got space, a little room with the other councillors and regional councillors and mayor, and there's a lot of admin staff. Like, do you have a lounge, lunchroom? What's the space actually like?
So I'll go to your first question about second floor. So it's true, we're on the second level, but the second level is actually called the first floor. So where you come in on at the main entrance, that's called the ground floor. So we're number one, I guess. And in terms of a lounge or a lunchroom, no, we do have a servery area where there's fridge, microwave, sink. We have cups, dishes, utensils, and we can certainly make coffee or tea. So if we have guests coming into our offices, we can certainly offer them something. It's also where we can preheat something if we're going to try and wolf down something in between meetings or something, then yes, we can do that. But otherwise, we don't get a lounge type atmosphere where we can accommodate our guests. It's either in our offices or in the boardroom.
Right. Okay. So no luxury space. It's not like you're working for one of these tech firms downtown and have catered lunch. No. Okay. How much time do you usually spend in a week, like in the office?
Well, only being here 6 months, I'm not sure that, I still have a good grasp on what it's going to be. But what I am finding is that it's starting to be less and less in the office, as more and more residents, groups, applicants, organizations, developers, they're all requesting our time, but it's usually on site. Somebody wants to show us something specific, that type of thing. So yeah, if I was to try and put right at the moment, physically, how much time I spend in the office, it's probably only around 30% now. Whereas when we first got into our offices, we were here quite a bit. But like I say, pandemic, everybody's liking to meet people in 3D now and, be on site for things. So yeah, it's seems to be less and less. Ask me in a year and I might be able to give you a better idea.
Okay, I'll revisit these questions in a year. Good. So there's one council meeting scheduled a week, and sometimes it's a committee of the whole, sometimes it's a public council meeting. Are there other regularly scheduled meetings? Like, do you have a lot of meetings?
Absolutely. There's going to be some sort of major program project going on that may prompt scheduling of numerous meetings, such as, the official plan update process, so there's a whole host of meetings that's, involved with a project like that. Plus, you've got various boards and committee meetings that are being scheduled. Occasionally, there will be special council meetings scheduled where staff may provide a presentation to address new initiatives that are coming down the pipe, such as Bill 23, Young North subway extension, those types of things. So, yeah, there's never a dull moment.
Okay, you're not sitting there twiddling your thumbs wondering about what to do next. Okay. Now, there are certain committees, like I had sat previously on the Heritage Richmond Hill Committee, and there was a staff, councillors on that, 2 councillors. I know other councillors sit on other committees, and you sort of, at the beginning of the term, you divide them up. So what committees did you get stuck on? Did you have a choice? And yeah.
Well, stuck, I wouldn't say that. The mayor certainly provided us with an opportunity to indicate which committees and boards were of particular interest to us. And then, the mayor opened up dialogue with each of us before asking if we were comfortable with what he was thinking of for our assignments. So some of us may have not got our number one picks, but all in all, I believe everyone was comfortable with the committee assignments. And it's worth noting that there's nothing precluding, a council member from attending another committee meeting. So, if there's particular input that, I wanted to provide, I can certainly go and attend, those other meetings and provide my input. In terms of the committees I'm on, so I've been assigned to the Business Improvement Area Committee, which, obviously makes perfect sense. So, and I'm on that committee along with Councillor Tree from Ward 4. And, with our 2 wards bordering, basically encompassing all of the business improvement area, it certainly makes perfect sense for the 2 of us to be on that particular committee. And I'm also a member of the library board. So I'm quite happy with both assignments.
Okay, very good. I expect that you get lots of emails. How many emails per day do you think you get? Or per week?
So email seems to be the prominent communication of choice. And I would suggest the ratio between email and phone calls is probably like 20 to 1, But I'm lucky. I have an experienced executive assistant in Nikki Sabet. And she's able to address many of the emails and calls that come in. However, it's not uncommon for us to have a quick discussion on any given matter that comes forward to ensure that we respond appropriately. And I think it would be important to note that Nikki has full access to my email and voice messages. So regardless of how well people might know me, it's always best to keep a professional decorum when corresponding with me. But in terms of numbers, I was looking at approximately, I think it's around 200 emails a week, which is really quite manageable. That's not a lot. When I think about when I retired a dozen years ago, what we were faced with in terms of emails. So, but you could get one email that could require a lot of time.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so that's just the way it goes. Yeah.
Okay, so some good advice. Remember, any email to you, Nikki reads as well, but Nikki's a nice person, so I'm not really concerned about that. And I do think I've made some typos, but she will forgive me for that. Okay. Ward 2, are there any specific issues that Ward 2 faces? Any things that is it unique in some ways?
Unique? Well, let's just say that I'm not looking forward to our next snowfall. I'm sure every councillor will tell you that snow removal has been a huge issue. So that's not unique to Ward 2, but certainly right across all wards. I would say, I'll give you an indication of the types of things that I get, and this is in no specific order. Road safety issues, bylaw infractions, like all kinds of them: noise, dog poop, property standards, parking, construction sites, garbage. The list is endless when it comes to infractions requiring bylaw. Development applications, people are always asking about what's going on with this application or a different application, that type of thing. If I was going to say that there's something kind of unique to Ward 2, I'd have to say homelessness encampments. I've had since I've taken office, I've had 3 separate encampment locations crop up in Ward 2. So it's again, that won't be specifically unique to Ward 2 versus across Richmond Hill, but I think that it's been more prominent in Ward 2 than any of the other wards.
Okay. Yeah, I don't like to think about homelessness, but yeah, I do. I'm not surprised that you mentioned that. I know that you attend a lot of public events, lots going on. I'm busy going to events, so I think you must be busier. So how many public events would you attend each week? Any guesses for that?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I do attend a lot of public events. I'm sure you've seen my social media and say, what is this guy, just a photo op guy? I'm sure some people think that. But I would say on average during the weekdays or the weekday evenings, probably 2, maybe 3 a week. And then on the weekends, I would say typically you're hitting 3 or 4 different events on the weekends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right now, I find it's exploded by the number of events things to go to. So, and I regard it as positive. So I hope you enjoy yourself at some of these events. So that's good.
Oh, absolutely. I was at Connecting the Community this morning.
Yes, that was good. Okay. And do you have a change of clothes, shoes in your car? Like I've done that where I'm nope, I gotta go change. So
I have to admit the thought has crossed my mind. I have not done that as of yet, and maybe part of that is because I'm not always in the same vehicle. So, but I should keep an extra set of clothes here in the office. Yeah. So good idea, Mark.
Yes, I think also you're in Ward 2, which is the center of the Richmond Hill. So if you were way up in Oak Ridges or down at Highway 7, it may be a bit more challenge, but you can run home and change, which is lucky. That's true. Being in Ward 2. So, any goals for the 4 years in term? You got 3.5 years left. Anything you want to accomplish?
Yes, I do. I'm sure you recall that during our council accountability group days together that we spent a lot of time discussing a number of different policy issues where we felt some updates, so I'll just call it that, were definitely needed. So at this point, I think it's a little premature to talk about those particular things that I'd like to bring forward as motions, but trust me, there are some motions forthcoming. So all I can say is stay tuned at this point.
Okay, I've got a couple of things I'm going to be asking you about offline to see if we can get a few things. You reminded me some of our issues that we did have. Okay. Anything else that you'd like to add, Scott?
Sure. I would like to say that prior to the election, people were questioning whether this position warranted a full-time salary. And what I can definitely tell you is that after being in this position for 6 months now, is that it is definitely not a part-time job. In fact, I would suggest that this is an all-the-time job. So, even though the requirements of this position is to be a Canadian citizen, at least 18 years old, and a resident or tenant or landowner in Richmond Hill, this is definitely not a position for everyone. And particularly for those who have conflicting priorities. If you're, trying to run a business or, raising a family, those types of things, I don't believe that you'd be able to provide the type of attention that this position requires. And so I'll leave it at that. But if I was going to add one more thing, and I'm not sure when this podcast is going to air, I will be hosting a safety symposium at Elgin Barrow Arena on June the 8th from 7 till 9 p.m. So I'll throw that shameless plug in right now. Because I will have various community safety organizations there, and they'll be able to answer many questions and help people, to lead the most safe lives that they can. And I will have some prizes and handouts and giveaways, that type of thing. So,
okay. No problem with your plugs. That's good. This should be out on May 23rd. So yes, the people listen to it the first couple of weeks, good for them. And can I come? Like, I'm not a Ward 2 resident.
It'll be open to everybody.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay. I do like to end the podcast with a question. Ask the same question to everyone. Name one thing you really like about this community.
I know what you want me to answer with, and you want me to say compassionate community. But I do have to give my own take. And because I've been a 25-year resident here, raised my family here, it's the amenities that Richmond Hill has to provide, particularly for, a growing community, are, bar none, top notch. We're very lucky to have the types of amenities that we have. And yeah, so that's the one thing. And if I'm going to talk about amenities, let me just throw another shameless plug in here. And I want to throw it in for the libraries. If you haven't been to the library in a while and you've got a preconceived notion about it, it's time to get the preconceived notions out of your mind. You need to go to the library. You will be surprised what our modern libraries offer at this point. I mean, it's incredible. You'll find a treasure trove of resources, curated programs, hand-on experiences, cozy spaces. We're home to the largest genealogical collection in York Region, and we have maker spaces where you can build, design, and create your own do-it-yourself project. So I strongly urge you to check out what our libraries have to offer. So to sum it up, amenities. That's my number one.
Thank you. I was going to ask you to expand, like what did you mean by amenities? Was it soccer fields? But that included our library. So I'm sure you do mean the arenas and the community centers.
Absolutely.
But yes, the libraries definitely. So
as you know, my kids were in sports, both in ringette and Richmond Hill hockey and ballet, all kinds of things. As a matter of fact, from the United Church, we had Bravo was in there. My daughter was in ballet there, and there was just so much available for our growing community. we just have to tap into it. That's all.
Right. Yes. I think both of us do cottage up in the Haliburton area. And I think, I love it up there, but I realize we have so many more amenities here. There's just so much happening, so many things to do. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us here in Richmond Hill to actually take advantage of what we have. So we are fortunate.
Absolutely.
Great way to end this podcast. So Scott, thank you very much. And for taking time. Put your website and your information about your upcoming safety symposium as well. So great talking with you.
Okay, always a pleasure, Marge.
Thank you for listening. I would very much appreciate you sharing this podcast. Please tune in next week as we continue to explore the community. Consider emailing me at Marge, M-A-R-J, at margeandre.com. I welcome suggestions for podcast guests. Stay well, stay connected.